before you say a single word to someone you are drawn to, before the first laugh, the first nervous sip of coffee, the first moment eye contact that lasts just a little too long. You have already made a decision. You chose a seat. And that choice, so automatic you barely noticed it, said more about how you love than any conversation ever could. Today, you are not going to answer questions about your past. You are not going to analyze your childhood or trace the patterns of every relationship that broke you or built you. You are simply going to look at a room, a warm, familiar cafe, 6 different places to sit, and somewhere in your gut, one of them already feels like yours. That pull is not random. That pull is the unconscious speaking. And if you stay with me today, you are going to understand exactly what has been trying to tell you. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying the signals human beings send without words, the symbols they are drawn to, the spaces they choose, the distances they keep. He believed that the choices we make without thinking are not accidents. They are the truest language of the psyche, far more honest than anything we say aloud, because the conscious mind edits. It softens what is too sharp. It hides what feels too vulnerable. It says, I am fine when something is breaking inside. But the unconscious does not lie. It simply chooses. And what it chooses in a room full of options reveals the emotional blueprint you carry into every relationship, the fears you protect, the kind of love you are truly searching for, the distance you need before you trust. Here is what I need you to do. Look at the image in front of you, a real cafe space, 6 numbered seats, each one different in position, energy, and feeling. Do not think about which one looks comfortable. Do not think about lighting or proximity to the counter. Ask only one question. Which seat would feel most natural to me on a first date? Choose it, hold it, and do not second guess. Because what comes next is going to surprise you. And for some of you, it is going to feel uncomfortably accurate. Input number seat 1, the center table. The open heart. You chose the most exposed seat in the room. Not the corner. Not the window. Not the soft lounge tucked behind a pillar. You chose the center, where there is nowhere to hide, where eye contact is unavoidable, where the space between two people feels like something alive. And that tells us something remarkable about you. You are more emotionally brave than most people realize, including yourself. When there is genuine chemistry in front of you, something in you does not want to play games. You do not want to perform interest or pretend to be less affected than you are. You want a real exchange. You want eye contact that does not look away too quickly. You want to feel the moment actually happening between two people, not curated behind a wall of coolness. This makes you rare in a world that has decided vulnerability is weakness. From a Jungian perspective, your choice aligns with what he called the anima or animus in full consciousness, the part of the self that does not need to filter its desire through layers of protection. You have, either through emotional growth or natural temperament, reached a place where you can sit in the center of feeling without immediately fleeing from it. But here is the truth hidden underneath that openness. You need to feel chosen back. And quickly. The center table requires mutual energy. When you sit there, open and present, and the other person is guarded, distracted, or emotionally distant, you do not just feel disappointment. You feel something that cuts deeper. A quiet wound that asks, was I too much? Was I too visible? Did I give more than I should have? You have likely felt that wound before. It may have taught you incorrectly that openness is a mistake, but it is not. It simply means you need someone who matches your courage. Your love pattern is one of directness and depth. You fall in ways that are complete. And what you are truly looking for is not someone perfect. You are looking for someone who sits across from you at the center table and does not blink. Do not shrink for someone who cannot meet you there. Input number seat 2, the window seat. The quiet observer. You wanted the window, the light, the outside world visible, but separated by glass. A clear line between the world you are entering and the world you can return to if something does not feel right. And on that window ledge, something else. A little distance from the other person. Close enough to feel warmth. far enough to still feel like yourself. This is the seat of someone who loves deeply but opens slowly. You are not cold. Do not ever let anyone tell you that. You simply have a different relationship with trust than most people. For you, trust is not assumed. It is observed. It is earned through consistency, through small moments, through the way someone treats a stranger, the way they listen when you speak, the way their energy shifts when they think no one is paying attention. And you are always paying attention. You notice everything. The hesitation before an answer, the way someone's eyes move when they are uncomfortable, the subtle difference between someone who is genuinely curious about you and someone who simply wants to be seen with you. You read people not through conversation alone, but through the space between words. Jung described this personality type as deeply connected to the introverted feeling function, people who process emotion internally first, who need to know something is safe before they allow themselves to feel it openly. This is not a flaw. It is a form of emotional intelligence that most people never develop. But here is the shadow this seat reveals. Sometimes the window becomes a barrier. You can spend so long observing that by the time you feel ready to open, the other person has already interpreted your distance as disinterest. You may have lost connections not because you did not care, but because your way of caring is invisible until trust has been completely secured. Your growth is not to abandon your careful nature. It is to let one small thing show before you are completely certain. A genuine smile when something moves you. An honest answer when they ask something real. A moment where you let the glass down even briefly. The right person will not rush you. But the right person also deserves to know that behind those observant eyes, there is a tremendous amount of warmth waiting. Let them see the edge of it. Input number seat 3, the corner booth. The depth seeker, you went to the corner, hidden from the center of the room, enclosed on two sides. Quiet, separate from the noise of other people, other conversations, the performance of public space. And that choice is deeply honest. You do not want to be seen by the room. You want to be seen by one person. Only one. Fully. In a space that feels protected from everything else. This is not shyness. This is not fear of people. This is something far more specific. You have an almost allergic reaction to love that feels performed. Love that exists partly for an audience. Love that is shaped by what looks good rather than what feels true. In relationships, you are looking for depth that most people cannot offer. You want conversations that do not stay on the surface for long. You want to know what someone actually thinks about life, about pain, about the things that keep them awake at 3 a.m. Small talk drains you. Chemistry for you does not begin with attraction. It begins with the moment someone says something that could only have come from them. From Jung's framework, the corner booth represents a person with a dominant introverted intuition. Someone whose inner world is rich, complex, and private. Someone who does not share that world with just anyone. But when they do, they share it completely. Here is what this reveals about your love pattern. You are capable of extraordinary intimacy, the kind that is rare, the kind that stays. But you require a very specific condition to access it. Safety, not safety in a physical sense. Emotional safety. You need to feel that what you share will be held carefully, that your inner world will not be mocked or misunderstood or used against you later. And because that trust takes time to build, you may have been told by past partners that you were distant, cold, or hard to reach. They were not wrong that you were guarded, but they may not have understood why, or stayed long enough to see what opens when that guard comes down. Your love is not for everyone, and that is not a tragedy. That is precision. The right person for you is not the loudest or the most charming. It is the one who follows you quietly to the corner, sits down, and asks you a question no one has ever thought to ask before. Input number seat 4, the side table, the careful connector. You chose proximity without full exposure, close to the warmth of the room, but not at the center of it, near enough to feel connected, but with just enough space on one side that the air still feels like yours. This is the seat of someone who wants love and also needs to preserve themselves inside of it. You are not someone who disappears into a relationship that has probably confused partners in the past. Someone who is warm and engaged and clearly interested, and yet maintains a core part of themselves that does not fully merge. A part that remains yours, private, protected. And this is not a defense mechanism. Or rather, it was once, and now it has become something more refined. Something that reflects genuine self-awareness. You have learned, probably through at least one relationship where you gave too much too fast, that losing yourself inside someone else does not create closeness. It creates an imbalance that eventually breaks. So now you love with intention. You move at your own pace. You give warmth freely, but you give access carefully. Jung would recognize this as a healthy boundary structure. The ability to be in connection without losing the self is one of the marks of what he called psychological individuation, the process of becoming a whole, integrated person who relates to others not from need, but from genuine choice. But this seat also reveals a quiet tension, because part of you, underneath the composure and the pace, does want to be completely chosen, completely seen. You want someone who is patient enough to wait for the layers to come down, but also someone who makes you feel worth waiting for. The fear hiding in this choice is subtle. Not fear of love, fear of premature love, of being seen before you are ready and misunderstood because of it. Your ideal first date is one where you feel no pressure, where the conversation flows without agenda, where someone seems genuinely interested in who you are rather than where this is going. When you find that, the side table becomes a center table very quickly. Input number seat 5, the lounge chair, the ease seeker. You wanted comfort before chemistry. Not a formal table with chairs facing each other like a job interview. Not a booth that locks you in. A lounge seat, soft, relaxed. The kind of space where a first date does not have to be a performance. This is a choice of someone who is deeply tired of love that requires effort to begin. At some point in your history, you learn that trying too hard in the early stages of a relationship does not make someone stay. It makes you smaller. It makes you perform rather than connect. It makes you craft a version of yourself that seems most appealing rather than simply being the version that is most real. And you are done with that. You want a first date that feels like a conversation you might have with someone you have known for years. Easy, honest, without the tension of being evaluated. You are most yourself when no one is grading you, and you fall in love most naturally when no one is trying to impress you either. From a Jungian lens, this is a seat of someone whose persona, the social mask we wear in public, has become exhausting to maintain in romantic contexts. You are in the process of learning that real attraction does not require performance, that the right person will find the unedited version of you more interesting, not less. But here is the gentle challenge this seat reveals. Sometimes a desire for ease can become avoidance of intensity. Not every moment of romantic tension is pressure. Some of it is electricity. Some of it is the very real sensation of something beginning. And if you're always seeking total comfort from the very first moment, you may sometimes sidestep connections that would have been extraordinary simply because they required a little vulnerability before the ease arrived. Your love does not need to be loud, but it does need to let itself be felt. The lounge is a beautiful place to begin. Just make sure you eventually move toward the person, not just into the cushion. Input number seat 6, the table by the door. The guarded soul, you chose the seat closest to the exit. And before you dismiss that, before you tell yourself it was just the lighting or the angle of the chair, stay with it for a moment, because this is not a judgment. It is one of the most psychologically honest choices in the room. You chose a seat where you can see everything, where you are never caught off guard, where the door is close enough that if something does not feel right, you are never trapped. You are never without a way out. And that instinct did not come from nowhere. Somewhere in your past, love stopped feeling safe before you were ready for it to. Maybe someone you opened yourself to left in a way you did not see coming. Maybe you loved someone completely, and that completeness was not handled with care. Maybe you learned, slowly and painfully, that being too available, too visible, too emotionally present was something people took advantage of rather than honored. So you moved toward the door, not because you stopped wanting love, but because you needed to know you could survive it leaving again. Jung spoke extensively about the shadow, the parts of ourselves shaped by wounding that we carry unconsciously into every new situation. For you, the shadow in love is a very specific fear, not the fear of being alone, the fear of being left while you are still fully inside something. The door is your permission slip. It says, I am here, but I have not given everything yet. I am interested, but I am also watching. I want this, but I will not shatter if it does not work. And there is incredible strength in that self-protection. It has kept you whole in moments that could have broken you. But here is what the door cannot give you. It cannot give you the feeling of being completely in something, of sitting in the center of a connection with no exit plan, because you trust the person across from you enough to not need one. That feeling, the one you may have forgotten or never fully experienced, is what your soul is actually searching for beneath all the careful positioning. The table by the door is not where you want to stay forever. It is where you wait until you feel safe enough to move deeper in. And you will, when someone earns it, not before. Now that you have heard what your chosen seat reflects, there is one final truth worth sitting with. None of these seats is a flaw. Not the one that seeks ease. Not the one near the door. Not even the one that wants to be completely hidden in the corner away from everyone. Every choice is a map of someone who has lived, who has loved, who has been shaped by what that love gave them, and sometimes by what it took away. The point is never to judge the seat you chose. The point is to see it honestly, because awareness is where change becomes possible. If you recognize yourself in the window seat, you now understand why patience is not something you ask of others out of timidity. You ask it because depth requires it. And you can say that clearly now. If you are the lounge seat person, you understand that your need for ease is not laziness in love. It is a refusal to perform. And that is a form of self-respect. If you are the table by the door, you now understand that your guarded heart is not broken. It is waiting for proof that opening is worth it. And you can stop apologizing for that. Carl Jung believed the goal of a full life was not to become someone without fear or wound or shadow. It was to become someone who knows their fear, understands their wound, and walks forward anyway, not blindly, not recklessly, but consciously. The seat you chose today is one small moment of consciousness. It is you, hearing yourself. And wherever you sit, whatever your pattern, whatever the history that shaped it, remember this. The right person does not need you to choose a perfect seat. They need you to choose honestly. And then, slowly, because of them, to move just a little closer. If this resonated with you, share in the comments which seat you chose, not just the number. Tell me why it felt right, because your reason is where the real story lives. And someone watching this right now may recognize themselves in your words the way you recognize yourself in mine.